So recently I was driving home when my phone rang and it was a number I didn't recognize, name didn't pop up, but since I'm in real estate, you answer your phone. So anyway, the voice on the other end of the line was very upbeat and bubbly. His name was Jack, and he very quickly established the fact that he was a telemarketer and was calling on behalf of Hilton Resorts and wanted to sell me a vacation package to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I said, hold it right there. I have to tell you honestly, Jack, I appreciate the call and your enthusiasm, but I don't take vacations. He came back with, well, we have some other packages, and proceeded to describe other cities in the United States where they could set me up, in splendor. And I said, look, the only time I really travel is when I go see my son in Okinawa. This had poor Jack stumped because they don't go outside the continental U.S. So we talked for a little bit more and then we parted ways. But this got me to thinking, when was the last time I really took a vacation? I think maybe it's the circumstance, or maybe it's just my personality. But I live in a place that feels a lot like a vacation quite a lot of the time, and a vacation spot for a lot of people, really. I mean, Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, they're surrounded by things to do and places to see. So I really don't have to go far. And what I'd like to do is take a little bit of time today and tell you about what is here. So I'm not going to be able to cover everything, and this is not going to be a travel guide, but I just want to cover some highlights and just share some thoughts on places, things I like to do, what appeals to me here, and, what might appeal to other people. So let's just start with downtown Charlottesville. If you're in Charlottesville proper, there's the downtown mall. This is a section of the city. It's about a block wide and roughly 4 or 5 blocks long. It's restricted to foot traffic, and it's a delightfully eclectic mix of shops, restaurants, a couple of theaters, and some really nice event spaces that you can hire. It's also home to Fridays After 5, which is a live entertainment event venue. It's quite active during the warmer months, and I've seen some great live shows there. Paramount Theater, also on the downtown mall, will host several live shows throughout the year. They're worth seeing. They get some really top-name acts there. And then there's the Violet Crown Theater for seeing first-run movies and things of that sort. Obviously, there's places to eat down there. One of my favorite restaurants is the Nook. The Nook, I think, has been there, it seems like forever. It's a place that's got the 1950s diner feel to it, but it's not run down or shabby. It's got the black and white ceramic tile floor, and it's a great place to meet, have a cup of coffee or a whole meal. I've been there for a couple of charity events. Nice place on the downtown mall. Also, first time I had Korean food was on the downtown mall. I went with a good friend of mine. He took me to this restaurant, and I just fell in love with the food, especially a dish called bibimbap. It took me a while to learn how to pronounce that, but if you get a chance, try it out. It is wonderful. And if you like sitting outside, sipping a cup of coffee in an outdoor cafe while watching people go back and forth on a warm day, just do some people watching, it's a great place for that. There's a lot of people to see, good coffee, good outdoor cafes, and just a whole variety of things here. And it's just nice to get out, even if you're not doing anything, but just walking around. Of course, I can't talk about staying in place without mentioning the amazing historical venues that we have in this area. I mean, come on, this is Virginia, where the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights were birthed. So let's start off with Monticello, former home of President Thomas Jefferson. It's an amazing experience, whether you're a local or a tourist. Monticello has about 450,000 visitors a year. If you live here and you can get up there during the week, quieter times, you will beat the crowds, and you can really enjoy the place, walk around the grounds, see the inside. The docents are very knowledgeable, and it is a good experience. A little lesser known historical residence is Montpelier. This is home of President James Madison. It's one of my favorites for getting a history fix, or the grounds are extensive, so it's just great for walking around outside, soaking it up, see the scenery and the history. It has about 125,000 visitors a year, so not quite as popular or as crowded as Monticello. So you've got time, a lot of interesting history there. And I guess I've had the pleasure of knowing Matt Reeves, who's the head archaeologist at Montpelier. We've had a lot of conversations about the discoveries that his crew have found on site. Things like the general history of the time, the politics that shaped our country. Fascinating conversations. And if you're around the first weekend of every November, you got to sample the Montpelier hunt races at least once in your life. It's held on the grounds in Montpelier, and it is the premier tailgate event where everyone attending puts on the dog. There's lots of food and drink, tailgate parties. I mean, this makes me want to break out my morning suit and top hat. At the other end of the sartorial spectrum is the Somerset Steam and Gas Pasture Party. Get out your blue jeans and t-shirts for this one. Held the second weekend in September, it takes place on the Roberts Farm in Somerset in Orange County. Here you can immerse yourself in anything and everything driven by steam, from 1880s farm tractors with steel wheels to things like rock crushers, ice makers, boy that was a surprise when I saw it, and they have a dizzying variety of hit and miss engines. If you don't know what those are, look them up. They're really, really interesting. There's a lot out there. There would be some old vintage vehicles that are restored. There are so many things, I can't begin to tell you everything that's there, but it's held over a 3-day weekend, and it's just one of the events that make this area unique and special, and you know, I hate missing it. I love getting there whenever they have it. This being Central Virginia, we're not far from breweries, wineries, distilleries, and restaurants for those attracted to a more culinary exploration of the towns and cities. Some years ago, the more rural counties surrounding Charlottesville decided to capitalize on their historical assets and promoted them as tourist attractions. This, coupled with wine tasting rooms, brew pubs, and distilled spirit watering holes, brought out-of-towners in droves, and this generated good tax revenue for the counties and towns without much expense in terms of services to be provided. The more prominent ones, such as Monticello and Montpelier, which I've mentioned before, are not visited by locals much unless they have visitors from out of town, which is a shame really, because you can miss out on a lot. You can make a day of it and return home in the evening. If you really need that getting away from it all feeling that you would get by traveling thousands of miles somewhere else, there are many bed and breakfast places that will give you that pampered experience. Airbnbs are here as well in quantity and uniqueness. If you just like to get out at lunch, experience some enchanted evening, or want to enjoy a simple weekend break, Charlottesville and the surrounding area is abundant with great spots to eat and drink. Check the show notes for some recommendations. I'll share this story with you. I've got a friend who loves to drink beer and eat soft pretzels with mustard. So what he's done is contacted our group of friends, and it's pretty varied, but we'll get together once a month. We'll go to a brew pub somewhere that we haven't been to before, and you know, check out all the different beers that they have, and if they've got food, usually most of them will serve something to eat. So even if it isn't a pretzel with mustard, which I'm sure not everybody likes, but there you go. As for something for the more outdoorsy people among you, Charlottesville is about 40 minutes from the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive, which gets you into and exploring the Blue Ridge National Park. There are also countless hikes and trails to explore here, including connections to the Appalachian Trail. The Blue Ridge Parkway sees almost 17,000 visitors a year, so I'd say I'm in a pretty good vacation spot. If you like a vigorous hike, check out Old Rag Mountain in Madison County. The summit gets you above the tree line, and the views are simply unforgettable. I especially remember a hike one time where I took my 6-month-old daughter in a backpack on my back up Old Rag, and there were some places where I had to take her off and hand her up to someone who was above me. Let's just say, be in good shape when you do this hike and enjoy the view. Make sure you dress warmly because it can get colder up there, as much as 10 or 20 degrees than it is down below. Another hike I took, this was interesting. My son and my niece, who was 8 or 9 years old at the time, we went to the parking area, paid our fee to take the hike up Old Rag. And I remember the park ranger saying, I don't know if you want to take her, she may not make it. The funny part of it was she was ahead of my son and myself the entire trip, and was fresh as a daisy when we got back to the car. I can't say as much for myself, but we had a great time. She loved it, and I've got this wonderful picture of her sitting on our shoulders at the summit of Old Rag Mountain. So, great experience. And again, this is literally in my backyard, right here in Central Virginia. The Charlottesville area also boasts ski resorts at Wintergreen and Massanutten if you're into those winter sports. Both of them are probably 40 minutes to an hour away, so probably not as convenient as being in Denver or Salt Lake City to some of their slopes. But for being on the East Coast, you find it just as enjoyable and a whole lot more affordable than traveling to those places. The bottom line really is this area boasts a plethora of activities for residents and tourists alike, from hiking, biking, to skiing and eating. So I think there's a little something for everyone here. And I guess this is why I struggle to find reasons to leave. If you want to learn more about living in Charlottesville, give us a like and a subscribe, leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time.